Welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. Boeing fired its CEO in an effort to regain trust with lawmakers, customers, and the public. Transportation officials give holiday season travel tips for those coming in and out of New York City airports. A cybersecurity firm is warning that a hacking group linked to the Chinese Communist Party is back. It says the group has resumed its attacks on companies and governments around the world. What appears to be a message for help from a labor camp in China uncovered in the UK. What one girl found in her Christmas card and what the company who sold the card is doing about it. And traditional Chinese dance and music company Shen Yun Performing Arts is back on tour, this year with a whole new program. Boeing has fired its CEO following a year of intense scrutiny set off by two fatal crashes of its 737 MAX jetliner.
Boeing on Monday ousted its chief executive officer following a year of turmoil in the wake of two disastrous crashes of its 737 MAX jetliner. Dennis Muilenburg faced intense criticism and calls for his firing for his handling of the crashes which killed 346 people and the subsequent 737 MAX grounding. He was hauled in front of Congress to explain what, if any, penalty he might pay personally for the tragedies.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Muilenburg. You said you're accountable. What does accountability mean? Are you taking a cut and pay? Are you working for free from now on until you can cure this problem? These people's relatives are not coming back. They're gone.
Muilenburg was also criticized for pressuring the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, to speed up the recertification of the 737 MAX. Boeing has been trying to fix strained relations with the regulators. The company said the current chairman, David Calhoun, will take over as CEO in January. Boeing is hoping the management shakeup could restore some confidence.
You know, Dave Calhoun's going to be a better diplomat. The big question is going to be whether or not he's a long-term leader for the company or merely someone who stabilizes Boeing's handling of this crisis.
Muilenburg was removed as chairman in October. On the same day, a review panel of global aviation experts listed a series of missteps by the company and the FAA in the development and certification of the MAX. The Seattle Times published an investigative report earlier this year, saying that the FAA delegated crucial safety evaluations of the 737 MAX to Boeing itself. Last week, the company announced it would halt production of the 737 MAX, and Friday the firm suffered another setback when a test of its Starliner spacecraft failed to dock at the International Space Station.
If you're traveling in or out of New York City during the holiday season, here are some tips from transportation officials to make your travel smoother.
New York's Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, says it expects one of the busiest holiday travel seasons in its history. They're advising passengers to arrive at least 2 hours early for their flights.
Because it's going to be a bigger challenge to park. It's going to take a little longer to check in, to get your boarding pass, to check in your luggage, and of course, to wait in the TSA line.
The TSA says from December 12th to January 5th, all the major airports in New York City expect more travelers than normal.
Over at JFK, we normally screen close to 100,000 people a day, but during this period, the busiest days of the holiday season, we screen more than 100,000 people per day at JFK.
The TSA also advises travelers to make sure they know what to pack and carry on versus checked baggage to speed up the screening process.
Solids should go in your carry-on, liquids should go in your check bag.
If travelers are not sure what item goes where, they can contact the TSA on social media or search the item in the What I Can Bring section on tsa.gov. Reporting by Jason Tong, NTD News, New York.
One of Congress's main accomplishments this year was getting President Trump's judicial nominees confirmed by the Republican-controlled Senate. Trump has had more judges confirmed in 3 years than any of the last 5 presidents.
Last week, the Senate voted to confirm 1 judge and end debate on 11 others. This brings the total number of Trump's confirmed judicial nominees to 187 in the past 3 years, and that includes 2 members of the Supreme Court. By comparison, the Senate confirmed 124 of President Obama's judicial nominations in his first 3 years in office. In total, Obama had 329 of his nominations confirmed. The Senate's GOP has focused on confirming Trump's judges, while the House has been busy with investigating and ultimately impeaching the president. This has shaped the entire year in Congress. As a result, Congress delayed doing its most essential jobs, approving an annual budget, ensuring national defense, and protecting America's international interests until the final moments of the 11th hour.
And a Saudi Arabian court has sentenced 5 people to death and 3 more to prison for the assassination last year of Washington Post contributor Jamal Khashoggi.
5 people have been sentenced to death for the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, Saudi Arabia's public prosecutor said on Monday. 3 more people have been handed jail terms totaling 24 years for covering up the crime. A further 3 suspects on trial in secretive proceedings in Riyadh were found not guilty. It's 14 months since Khashoggi walked into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul and was never seen again. He was there to receive papers ahead of his wedding, but instead he was murdered. His body was reportedly dismembered and removed from the building. The whereabouts of his remains are shrouded in mystery. Khashoggi was a US resident and critic of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the kingdom's de facto ruler. His death caused a global uproar, tarnishing the Crown Prince's image. The CIA and some Western governments have said they believe Prince Mohammed ordered the killing, but Saudi officials say he had no role. The names of those found guilty haven't been released. The verdicts can still be appealed.
The U.S. released footage of military drills with South Korea as tensions with North Korea ratchet up ahead of a year-end deadline. The drills simulate infiltration of an enemy facility and have been decried by North Korea in the past as a rehearsal for war.
Photos of the exercise at a base in southwestern South Korea showing U.S. and South Korean commandos leading a man out of a building with his hands tied behind his back. A South Korean official said the drill was designed as a hostage rescue operation training as part of a counterterrorism drill conducted quarterly. The rare release of the photos comes ahead of a year-end deadline set by Pyongyang for Washington to soften its stance in nuclear weapons talks. South Korea's newspaper Chosun-ilbo, which first reported the training, said the drills were intended to simulate a scenario to capture North Korean executives. Tension has been growing in recent weeks as North Korea conducts a series of weapons tests. Earlier this month, President Trump said the U.S. reserved the right to use military force against Pyongyang.
A U.S.-based security equipment company is facing charges that it falsely passed its equipment off as made in the U.S. and Hong Kong. Prosecutors allege that the gear was made in China instead, resulting in the company's owner being charged with wire fraud.
This company sells security equipment to law enforcement across the U.S., including the U.S. Navy and Air Force. Last Tuesday, its owner was arrested for alleged wire fraud. Prosecutors say he got those government contracts by hiding the origin of the equipment. They say he listed the equipment as being made in Hong Kong and the U.S., but that they were made in mainland China. The U.S. Trade Agreements Act says all commercial companies approved by the General Services Administration have to manufacture or substantially transform their products in a designated country. Mainland China is not a designated country. If convicted, SEG Armor owner Anthony Morgan could face a maximum of 20 years in prison. His arrest comes after another government supplier was convicted of falsifying records about the origin of equipment that was sold to NASA. Shen Yun, an employee at aerospace parts supplier Siebel Corporation, told NASA that stainless steel tubing used for rocket fuel was from the U.S. Prosecutors say the tubing came from China and failed a materials test. Yun faces up to 10 years in prison. His sentencing trial is set for March 2nd.
Thousands of years of history in 2.5 hours. Shen Yun Performing Arts has started its 2020 World Tour in the U.S. with an all-new program. Here's what the audience is saying about it.
Their athleticism and the gracefulness of the entire company was just mesmerizing. I loved it.
And we've been looking to come to see it for 2 years, and so we're very happy that we did get to see it tonight.
Shen Yun Performing Arts starts its 2020 season in Purchase, New York, and Berkeley, California. Audiences were amazed by their artistic skills.
Wow, it was just absolutely great. The music, the visuals, the way they combined, it was an experience unlike any other that I've ever had.
I was stunned and amazed. It was awesome. I think the dancers, the performers were amazing. They executed everything flawlessly. The music, very, very soothing.
Shen Yun, based in New York, travels the world each year with its mission to revive the 5,000 years of Chinese culture through dance and music.
I only see communist China, I mean, that's all we see in American TV. So to see something like Shen Yun introducing us and showing us something like China believing in the creator, in flowers and in beautiful colors, it's just amazing to me. It's a different China that I haven't seen.
The fact that it's 5,000 years of culture being brought, that what we're seeing are performances that might have been seen in some form over the course of centuries and millennia, that's just fantastic. It's really enjoyable to be part of that continuum.
For thousands of years, ancient Chinese culture placed a great emphasis on the divine. Continuing the tradition, the spiritual connotation displayed by Shen Yun has resonated with the audience.
Love and the heavenly, to be a little more closer, I guess, to God or the Creator or to heaven.
Shen Yun will continue its performances in Connecticut and California during Christmas. NTD News, New York.
Coming up, what appears to be a message for help from a labor camp in China uncovered in the UK. What one girl found in her Christmas card and what the company who sold the card is doing about it.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people. I'm a little freaked out that many people have seen my face. In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
Are you tired of newspapers spinning the truth and pushing false narratives? And are you looking for honest coverage of Spygate, the true story of collusion? Or the truth behind the crisis at our southern border? Or how the Chinese Communist Party is working to subvert America and our way of life? Then you need to check out the Epoch Times newspaper. It's independent, nonpartisan, and it doesn't push any political agendas. Just go to readepoch.com and try it yourself for a full month for just $1. You'll absolutely love it.
British supermarket chain Tesco says it has suspended a Chinese supplier after a girl found a plea for help inside a Christmas card bought at the store. The card was manufactured in China and, according to the note, was made using forced labor.
An unexpected Christmas message.
The card said, "We are forbidden prisoners, forced to work against our will. Please contact Peter Humphrey."
6-year-old Florence Whitcomb was filling out Christmas cards when she discovered a call for help from prisoners in China.
The card had come from somebody imprisoned in Shanghai and was raising human rights concerns and asked whoever found the note to pass it on to Peter Humphreys.
Peter Humphrey is a British former journalist and corporate investigator who served prison time in China for selling private records of Chinese citizens. Florence's father contacted him over LinkedIn.
I felt very shocked, but I also felt a responsibility to pass it on.
Humphrey says he thinks he knows who wrote the note, but won't give the name.
Well, I spent 2 years in captivity in Shanghai between 2013 and 2015. And my final 9 months of that captivity was in this very prison, in this very cell block where this message has come from.
He says when he was there, manufacturing was voluntary. Prisoners worked for pennies but buy daily necessities like soap and toothpaste.
What has happened in the last year or so is that work has become compulsory.
The Christmas card came from supermarket chain Tesco, Britain's largest retailer. The company says it has suspended the supplier and removed its cards from store shelves. The Chinese Foreign Ministry dismissed the incident as a farce created by Mr. Humphrey. But this isn't the first such message. In 2012, a woman from Oregon found a similar letter in a box of Halloween decorations. It garnered international attention and was the subject of the 2018 documentary Letter from Ma Sanjia.
According to one cybersecurity firm, a hacking group linked to the Chinese regime has resumed its global attacks, stealing data from companies and government agencies. NTD's Penny Zhou has more from a cybersecurity expert on the bigger picture of China's information war against the West.
The Chinese hackers are coming back. Cybersecurity firm Fox IT issued the warning last week. The firm reported that in the past 2 years, a hacking group reportedly working for the Chinese regime has been targeting companies and government agencies from 10 countries, including the U.S. The report identifies the hacking group as APT-20, also known as Violent Panda. This Chinese group was active during 2009 to 2014, but has since gone quiet. This time, they were found stealing passwords from American and European companies in aviation, finance, healthcare, energy, and more. Cybersecurity expert Casey Fleming said he is not surprised by the report. He said the Chinese regime is known for hiring hackers.
The Chinese Communist Party for years, for decades, and it's peaking now of them stealing innovation, intellectual property, sensitive data, trade secrets. Just basically you run everything that you run your company on. They're stealing that, and they have done a perfect job in doing so.
In 2014, the U.S. Department of Justice indicted 5 Chinese military officers for stealing business secrets and intellectual property from U.S. firms. Last year, the department charged 2 other Chinese hackers linked with the regime for stealing secrets from the U.S. Navy.
They're achieving military gains through non-military methods.
According to reports, Chinese IP theft has cost Americans nearly $60 billion each year.
So it's a form of war that every company is in, whether they want to be in or not.
Researchers say the hacker's nationality is easy to detect. Sometimes they type in simplified Chinese, and when they realize they've been caught, they curse in Chinese slang. Reporting by Penny Zhou, NTD News.
Up next, the USMCA trade deal. What's in it and how it could boost the U.S. economy. More on that after the break.
Trillions of dollars of U.S. pension funds are funding Chinese companies, many of which pose national security threat to America and are human rights abusers.
You're telling me they don't know about the Uyghurs? They do not know about the enslavement of the Chinese people? Sure they know. And they don't care.
Almost all Chinese companies have 2 sets of accounting records. One is for internal use, the other is for the tax bureau.
The United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement passed the House last week. It's expected to get Senate approval next year. What's in it and how's it going to affect the U.S. economy? NTD spoke to industry experts on the impact it could have.
The U.S. House of Representatives overwhelmingly voted to pass the USMCA last Thursday.
The bill is passed.
The trade deal promises to bring freer markets and fairer trade among the 3 countries and also provides stronger protection for labor and the environment. The deal includes tougher requirements for automakers to use North American-made parts Experts say while it might raise the cost to build cars and trucks, it will also encourage car makers to increase production in the U.S. in the long run, would ultimately benefit workers.
Even if it does cost the automakers something more, consumers are ultimately going to be willing to bear those costs.
The agreement also requires nearly half of auto parts to be made by workers earning at least $16 an hour. It will likely shift car assembly north from Mexico to encourage American manufacturing.
Will provide stronger protection for U.S. jobs and I think level the playing field relative to labor markets in all three trading partners.
One provision of the deal will give U.S. farmers more access to Canada's market for dairy, poultry, and eggs.
For farmers to have access to the North American market is very important.
Fowler says the freer flow of goods will also create new opportunities for the transportation industry. For example, more need for temperature-controlled transportation across the U.S.-Canadian border. Critics say the USMCA did not make enough progress compared to NAFTA, but one expert says it gives businesses the certainty they need.
It's quite clear that business groups in the U.S. and elsewhere support this deal because they think it's the most important thing for them to eliminate that uncertainty for the future.
Others say that the agreement may serve as a template for future trade deals and gives President Trump a stronger hand in negotiating with Beijing.
But more developed economies could sign on to those services trade provisions. Japan has already indicated that it's fine with the digital chapter, the services trade chapter. But if we say in 2020 we're going to expand USMCA, that will put pressure on China because it will turn us back to saying we can sign trade agreements.
And it also shows that the two sides of politics can still find common ground.
In this rather difficult and challenging political climate, Republicans and Democrats came together to support the USMCA deal. So in that sense, it is a win for both sides, which if it is good for the American people, that's the way that it should be in government.
According to an estimate released by the United States International Trade Commission earlier this year, this new trade partnership would boost the economy by $68 billion and create over 170,000 new jobs. Reporting by Kitty Wong and Catherine Wen, NTD News.
Coming up, what's being hailed as the first printed Christmas card goes on display in London. More on that after the break.
Every once in a while, something comes along so masterful, it leaves you in awe. So inspiring, it changes your life. So beautiful, you wish it would never end. When that happens, it's something not to be missed. Shen Yun, an all-new production every year.
We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. The Epoch Times is independent. We're not controlled by any special interests, and we never will be. The Epoch Times is a non-partisan media. That means we don't stand for any political party. This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would ensnare this country in ignorance, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
At the feet of the mighty Jura Mountains, Master Chef Frederick Molina earned his first Michelin star. In this episode, we'll experience his way of cooking, get to know the story behind building a family restaurant, a true power team, and how in the process he found harmony. Don't miss his best recipes. Taste of France.
We may be living in an era of e-cards and instant messages, but paper Christmas cards are still a tradition. A museum in London is displaying what's been hailed as the world's first printed Christmas card. NTD's Jane Werrell reports from London.
Christmas cards, a custom that started in the 1800s and continues to this day, even with digital technology.
Real tangible things, books, printed matter, there's still very much a market for that at Christmas.
Here at the Charles Dickens Museum, which was Dickens' former home, is what's been hailed as the world's first ever printed Christmas card, on loan from a book dealer in San Francisco. It was designed in 1843 by Henry Cole, but it wasn't an instant hit.
It wasn't an very popular idea at the time. It wasn't until a few decades later that millions of cards were winding their way around the country at Christmas.
In 1877, 4.5 million Christmas cards were sent. The UK was the first country to go through the Industrial Revolution. This meant that cards could be printed cheaply and transported easily. The commercialisation of Christmas here began more quickly.
And of course, from 1840 onwards, you had the penny post, so you could send a card anywhere in the UK for a penny.
He said countries like the US and Germany sent people to observe the penny post in the UK and bring back their ideas. It was an era that shaped our modern custom of gifting Christmas cards today. And according to the Greeting Card Association, the tradition of sending printed cards is still going strong. Jane Werrell, NTD News, London.
Festive celebrations came to the ZSL London Zoo this week, with the animals receiving early Christmas treats.
The lucky animals included ring-tailed lemurs, Bolivian black-capped squirrel monkeys, and a Sumatran tiger called Asim. Each enclosure received different edible treats. The lemurs were given sweet potato bites hidden in stockings. Monkeys got an unusual mix of waxworms and strawberry paste, and the tiger got traditional turkey presented in a gift box. The idea behind the treats may seem like a bit of fun to visitors, but the animal operations manager at the zoo points out that it is a great way to make feeding time interesting for the animals.
We're always looking for fun ways to feed our animals, to keep it enriching and keep it new for them. So we might as well get them into the festive spirit like we are here at the zoo.
The zoo is open all year round except for Christmas Day, when the staff and animals take a break. It reopens to the public on Boxing Day.
And that's all for today's news. Thank you for watching. I'm Stephanie Cox.